4 Arkansas congressmen, 2 Arkansas senators, 2 tax bills. Where from here? 2 Arkansas senators and a would-be colleague from Alabama. What now? What here? The Arkansas economy, how green Black Friday and beyond. And in sports, the economics and the politics of Razorback athletics. Arkansas Week next.
Local broadcast of Arkansas Week is made possible in part by the award-winning Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, Arkansas's largest major newspaper, bringing you local, national, and international news since 1819. By the Arkansas Times, keeping you informed by covering people, events, and politics in Arkansas. By FM 89, KUAR in Little Rock, with in-depth news reporting, analysis, and discussion each weekday.
Hello again, everyone. Thanks for joining us for Arkansas Week. An awful lot to cover in 1/2 hour, including federal, state, local taxes, booze, and football. Jacob Kaufman joins us from KUAR Public Radio for Central Arkansas. Wesley Brown, reporter for Talk Business and Politics, and David Keith from the UCA Journalism Department. Thanks to everybody for coming in. Wesley, we'll go to you. The House, with all 4 of Arkansas's delegates voting with a majority, all Republicans, went with the House version of the tax bill Thursday night, as the cliche goes, in the dead of night. So the Senate Finance Committee kicked out the Senate's version of the bill, including a feature advocated strongly by one of the 2 senators from Arkansas.
Right. First of all, the bill that the House passed by 227 to 205, mostly along party lines. All of Arkansas 4 congressional delegates voted for it. The bill essentially they're calling it a middle class tax cut, but it has a lot of corporate in there. The corporate tax will go down from 35% to 20%. And it will be permanently reduced, whereas the so-called middle-class tax cuts are going to be, I think, for the next decade. Then they'll sunset. So, but also the Senate has a version that is slightly different. Our Senator Cotton inserted a little thing that will take out the individual mandate from the Obamacare. And that will take off a $300 billion on because the total cost of the bill is $1.8 trillion. So a lot of it, you have to get into it. I'm already getting calls from people saying, wow, this is going to impact me. There's different tax exemptions that are going to sunset, from education bonds to historical exemptions across the board, from that'll affect progressive groups all the way up to pro-business groups. So there's a lot of protests out there. So it's going to be very difficult for the Senate to get the majority. They basically probably 48 Democrats or 49 Democrats are going to vote against it. And so they've got to at least hold together their complete GOP majority. So it's going to be very difficult for the Senate bill to get through.
There were erosions among House Republicans in a way, I guess you could call it a free vote, but not necessarily. They were under a lot of pressure. Some House Republicans were, and they defected.
Yeah, 13,
and there are some profound reservations on the part of some Republican senators.
Yeah, there's already some murmurings from I think Senator Johnson, Republican, has said that there are certain things on the business tax that are not accepted, and then there is a lot of pressure because the corporate tax is permanent, whereas the middle class income tax cuts are in
sunsetted.
Sunsetted, and some groups won't get a tax. Actually, their taxes will rise.
Well, you're right, because one of the things interesting about this is even within middle class, even with the lower class, and also with the upper class, depending on where you fall with your income and other factors, you may see a tax increase.
Yeah.
It's not absolute, and obviously a lot of people will see a decrease, but one of the concerns is after 10 years, if Congress doesn't do anything else, if this passes, Congress doesn't do anything else, then people who are receiving cuts now, not all of them, but a lot of them will.
Actually, it's 8 years, isn't it? And one
Yeah,
version.
it's actually 225, I think.
Yeah, okay. And the Republicans in the House who voted against this, they are all from states, from California, New York, and New Jersey. States with very high state and local tax rates now because one of the provisions of the House bill is the state and local taxes are no longer deductible.
Right.
And, I mean, a big shift here is greatly increasing the personal exemption and eliminating a lot of exemptions. And so now for any taxpayer would have to figure out, just as they do now, what's best for me?
Right.
But with the way that they are increasing the personal exemption, very few people would itemize anymore, because you still have to look at it to see what's best for you.
And while the Republican Party definitely sees this as they need to have an accomplishment in this first year, I think Lindsey Graham noted who that accomplishment would be for when he said donations would dry up if they're not able to pass this. And the American people seem to be kind of hip to this, that it's not really focused on middle class tax cuts. It is focused on corporate tax cuts. And I think it's something like 65%, and 3 recent polls show the American people think that corporate tax rates should be higher, not lower. And this is the main thrust of the bill, is going against, it's counter to American public opinion that thinks corporations pay too little.
And also the other group that benefits is the extremely wealthy in this. The tax rates for those, not only the top 1%, but even beyond that. In one analysis I read, the top 1/10 of 1%, the tax break that they will receive through the House tax bill is huge.
Yeah, and one of the I guess the things that the Republicans have said, especially they hope that some of the money from offshore will come back into the United States and hopefully trickle down to the rest of the economy. And of course, Democrats are calling this the same kind of trickle down economics that
has not worked in the past.
And that has not worked in the past. So. And some CEOs have said that, if this passes, they're not going to immediately begin hiring more workers. They're going to invest in assets. They actually, one of the White House advisors was before CEO Council, and this is what they said: they're not going to immediately put that money back into the workforce, the U.S. workforce.
Well, all of this is happening too as we see some new numbers on enrollment in Arkansas.
Right.
We're talking about dropping the individual mandate, or under the Senate version anyway. And we've got a pretty healthy increase in Arkansas enrollment.
Yeah, and not only Arkansas, the rest of the United States. I think the Affordable Care Act numbers, the enrollment numbers are 43% above what they were last year. I think it's over 1.1 million in the more. And in Arkansas, that number is sequentially smaller, but the increase is about the same in Arkansas. So what that means, that's going to put pressure, especially with this individual mandate. There's going to be more pressure on these senators to say either that's going to have to come out of the bill, or it's going to be very difficult.
It's interesting. Senator Cotton got the individual mandate portion right, or whatever, added to this bill, but the ACA repeal failed in the Senate.
Yeah.
And so by putting this provision in there, if it stays, it makes it that much harder to pass this bill, because they could not get a majority of the Republicans. They had their 3 or 4 defections, if you want to call that, or individuals who voted against the bill, and and a couple of them are, they're already saying, I got to look closely at this.
Yeah.
And one thing, this is this sweeping tax change 400-page bill, and it just flew through the House.
Yeah.
It's working. The Senate is being very fast. Obviously there are people out there spending a lot of time looking at this, but there is so much nuance in this that is really not being considered, and the long-term impact. Now, I'm not saying it's good, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it's not getting a very close look by the people who should be looking closely at it.
And the people that that especially has a lot that have tax exemptions. I've got a call from a college here that said that there was a particular tax exemption in this bill for bonds. So this will affect them if they lose that tax. They're going to have to pay more for construction, on new construction at college institutions, but it's so, like you said, there's so much. I don't think no one knows how this is going to impact the economy.
And it's not just the colleges themselves, it's the students there as well. There's all sorts of loss of deductions for students, undergraduate and graduate students who would lose out on potentially thousands of dollars.
Right. Student loans are no longer deductible.
Yes.
Got to move on, but let's stay with the economy and narrow to Arkansas. New numbers this morning. Wesley from Job Force.
Yeah,
a tick up in
jobs.
We're
we're back up to a 3% unemployment rate, but otherwise, I think everything is pretty smooth in terms of the job force. I think we're getting to a point where our job numbers are going to stay steady or stay flat for a while because there's not a lot of room in the workforce. I think we've reached the total employment record, the total number of people employed in the state of Arkansas. There's also really a need for in niche job areas for skilled workers and workers that have the skills to move the economy a little bit more. So in technical skills, technology type jobs, the higher paying jobs. So it's going to be flat for a while. So I don't think we're going to get any a real improvement from those numbers for. I think we've kind of reached the bottom on that.
Okay, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. That's next week. That means Black Friday. Anyway, by mid-October, American retailers aren't worried about Halloween or really even Thanksgiving. It's Christmas. How do we look?
We're I think consumer confidence is up. People are still kind of antsy about. I think they're going to spend, but they're going to be very particular about buy things that they need and fulfill needs during the Christmas. But the retailers, they're going to be on Black Friday, and that's always the day you know if it's going to be a good holiday season or not, are putting all kinds of specials out there online, off in the brick and mortar stores. So it's really going to be interesting to see if those numbers, of course, Walmart and Amazon are going to be leading the pack in all of this.
Well, but because it's Arkansas based, let's talk about Walmart just for a second. It had brick and mortar, it showed a real jump.
Yeah.
Surprisingly.
Yeah, their earnings were actually below last year, but their e-commerce numbers and their earnings were down because they had to pay off $1.3 billion in debt. But their stock was up 11% yesterday, and they reached a new 52-week, almost $100. 11%. So they're at $99 a share. And everybody's talking about. I wish I would have bought some way back then, but
wish I'd bought it at 75. But
exactly. But Walmart is really has made some inroads in e-commerce. They brought in a new executive from Jet.com, and he's really done a great job of making Walmart a place where you can buy online, then go pick it up at the brick and mortar store.
So in effect, they're blending e-commerce and brick and mortar.
And of course, this is more and more where our economy is going.
Yeah.
And Walmart is recognizing that. One thing about these numbers that really help the stock price as well is they were expected to have a pretty good quarter, but they exceeded those expectations.
Yeah, they did.
And so that certainly
Beat the street.
Yeah, Ball Street. Yeah,
will drive the prices higher. But they are doing a lot of with of course you can order online and pick up at a store, kind of a mixture of the e-commerce and the traditional brick and mortar. You can get free shipping if you order $35, I believe, online. And so they're trying to take some of it. They're taking the page out of the Amazon playbook.
Well, e-commerce figures into this, another aspect of retail in Arkansas, but only slightly. And we're talking about alcoholic beverages. We had in the past week 2 communities, Central Arkansas, go wet. Wet's the trend anyway.
Well, semi-wet.
Yeah.
Damp.
A little bit wet.
Conway.
They went damp. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, so these were in Sherwood and Jacksonville, some special elections for some parts of those towns. So, the rest of Central Arkansas is pretty wet. So a lot of the advocates of this, like the mayor of Jacksonville, would note that people just drive a couple more minutes to North Little Rock. all these restaurants, chain restaurants, why would they ever move to Jacksonville when they can move 5 minutes that way to get their alcohol sales?
Right, and even in Sherwood, and because what we're dealing with is a single township. Really, that township doesn't even exist anymore. But that geographic boundary was dry. A vote 60 years ago, something like that. Sherwood is actually even divided. Or part of Sherwood was wet and part was not. Now this, we call it damp because this is liquor by the drink in private clubs, but under the state laws, and now that have been changed where economic development is a reason for a private club. That's why it seems like every restaurant in Conway, a dry county, has a liquor license.
At least one, yeah. The trend line, though, would seem to be pretty clear. I mean, it's moving wetter, damper wetter, all the time.
Well, it also came in a week where grocery stores were permitted to
that's the big
start selling wine from large-scale wine companies. Right now, they're limited to small-scale farm wineries that benefit, like Arkansas Vineyards, you might hear about.
So actually, that started yesterday. So there's 214 grocery stores and convenience stores, which is interesting, that are now will be able to sell wine.
And these 214 permits that were approved, most of them were Walmart, Kroger, Come and
big
Go,
retailers.
big grocery stores and big convenience store changes. But really, the change, it goes back more than a couple of days, because this is because of the legislature.
You're right.
The legislature changed the law to allow, and it was really kind of a formality, what the ABC did this week with the allowing the wine sales. But the legislature changed the law to allow the wine sales. They also changed the law that allowed, in the case of Jacksonville and Sherwood, those city councils to call for the vote on this issue. It didn't require the collection, the onerous collection of 15% of registered voters, or whatever it is. That's very hard to do for a wet, dry vote.
Right.
And so the legislature kind of back in the spring stood up to the liquor lobby, and made these changes. So
two big things that the liquor lobby has always opposed: Sunday sales. But that pales as an issue for the lobby. That pales against the larger question. It seems inevitable now: package sales in grocery stores.
Yeah, and I guess the elephant in the room, of course, is that Walmart is that those bills that were passed during the legislative session. Walmart lobbied and put a lot of pressure on the legislature to get these bills passed, because they see that liquor, because they're developing things up in Bentonville to get this very and there's, with alcoholic sales or spirit sales, they're projected to go up over the next 20 years. So they want to get a big portion of those revenues.
And Walmart certainly has a strong ability to lobby, of course, particularly in Arkansas, but note the top story on your website, Talk Business and Politics, today was about Walmart settling hundreds of millions of dollars worth of bribery settlements in Mexico. So they're a company that is, I guess strong arm is like a nice way to put it.
Moving on, back to national politics, filtering down to the local. I don't even know if I guess it started with Judge Moore down in Alabama, but it has grown exponentially. They're reviving memories of the Clinton problems in the White House, which led to an impeachment. The gentleman from Minnesota, Mr. Franken, this is going everywhere
headline.
now.
Today's headline, yesterday's story.
And both Arkansas senators have now indicated, Mr. Moore, go away.
Yeah, this is going to be, these revelations are going to continue to come out. They're going to continue. I think there was in the House of Representatives, there was a vote on sexual harassment, not to pay, to deduct taxes on a settlement. So, and there was some speculation that there are several other lawmakers who have been involved in these kind of allegations. So it's going to be a kind of drip effect for until who knows when. There's going to be a drip effect of it could drip down to Arkansas legislature, because there are some there's some speculation that there are some issues there too. So we could see those issues just continue to affect the political spectrum for a long time.
And really, just beyond the morals issue that we have here, because you look at what the Roy Moore and the election, the special election for the Senate in Alabama. Remember, the winner of that race may be voting on the tax care or other bills.
Yeah.
Right.
And that special election is December 12th.
Right.
Significant implications, to put it mildly, for the Republican congressional.
It is, which is already.
We've got a debt vote coming up after that.
Right, and so if they lose a number, and I did see a Fox News poll that actually Mr. Jones I believe, has moved ahead of Moore in Alabama, although the Alabama Republican Party has come out with its full support, official support for Roy Moore in this election. They continue to support him, but there's a lot of, and you can see it in any of these instances, whether Senator Franken or Roy Moore, the long-term political implications are there, along with the moral aspect of it.
Yeah.
Quickly about the Arkansas Senate now. All sympathies to the family of the gentleman from Russellville, Senator Standridge, who succumbed to illness a couple of days ago. But we also have a second Republican member of the Arkansas Senate, Joe Williams, a gentleman from Cabot, who is, I think he's formally resigned now to accept a position in the Trump administration. So that leaves two Senate vacancies in Arkansas. Both gentlemen would appear to have come from pretty red districts.
Yeah. I don't think you're going to see a change in terms of you're going to get a strong Democratic candidate to go against these. These are, like you said, they're pretty red. But it could you may start seeing Democrats really kind of. I would talk to the Democratic chairman and said I think you're going to start seeing more Democratic candidates in races over the next 3 or 4 years because of what's happened in national politics trickle down to local politics. And I think you're going to see more Democratic candidates in those red states to have viable Democratic candidates. So this is just kind of the beginning of that. But those two seats are going to be safe.
There definitely have been a lot of Democratic candidates filing in the last week or so. And unlike the last elections, Democrats now have a congressional candidate for all 4 congressional offices. So that's a difference. And there's even enough activity that there looks to be some primary races in some areas.
Yeah, got to move on, and that's athletics. Big money involved here. I mean, it compares against the debt and the deficit, but it's still substantial. The suspense had become bearable. Mr. Long was dismissed this past week as athletic director. The future of the head football coach plainly is in doubt. Where from here?
This issue, like you said, this is about money. This is not about athletics. It's not about student athletes. It's not about wins and losses. All those things create money.
Right.
And so this is about money.
Or lose it.
Or lose it, And Jeff Long's still going to be making plenty of money.
Yeah, $4.6 million.
$4.6 million to the tune of $83,000 a month for the next 4.5 years.
Right.
But the Board of Trustees is looking at the number of people, the donations to the foundation, the people sitting in the stands. I mean, I don't say most, but a large portion of the money comes from television. It comes from other revenues and such as that. But if the fan base is not happy and the fan base stops spending money, it certainly affects the programs at every level.
Yeah, and if you've listened to the drive-by radio shows, I mean the crescendo of complaints against Jeff Long were just rising and rising. The issue of him moving games from Little Rock, there were 3 when he started in Little Rock, and now there's 1, and just the whole, like you said, the financial portion, and people were getting upset, and of course. Some people say if the win and loss ratio was better, then everything would be taken care of.
Winning solves a lot of problems.
Well, yeah, and there's this. We've got, a $200 million expansion program bonded up there in Fayetteville. At the same time this past week, we got an SEC or whatever report suggesting 8 figures worth of improvements necessary in War Memorial Stadium, wherein the Hogs play 1 game, if that.
Yeah, and that question is going to be very. I think you're going to see the board, the chancellors discussed that issue going forward to maybe move at least one game back to Little Rock if the stadium is improved.
And it kind of comes at a time when it seems like the other athletic programs like at ASU and UA Little Rock are almost smelling blood and trying to amp up their own programs. Of course, the Red Wolves have expanded their stadium and trying to get their presence expanded as well. And UA Little Rock has a feasibility study.
From a fan standpoint, the Razorbacks need Little Rock. They need War Memorial Stadium. They need that game. From a financial standpoint, they're better off staying in Fayetteville. They have more seats. They generate more revenue for a game there than they do in Little Rock. And so, there is that balance. Are we here to make money, which goes back into the program, or are we here to satisfy the fans? And there's a balance there. And the university is going to have to figure out what that balance is, because I think Jeff Long, he was ready to cut Little Rock loose completely. And of course, that's one of the complaints people had about Long. He's not from around here. He doesn't understand.
Got to end it there because we're out of time. Thanks to everybody for coming in. Always thanks to you for watching. Next week.
Local broadcast of Arkansas Week is made possible in part by the award-winning Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, Arkansas's largest major newspaper, bringing you local, national, and international news since 1819. By the Arkansas Times, keeping you informed by covering people, events, and politics in Arkansas. By FM 89, KUAR in Little Rock, with in-depth news reporting, analysis, and discussion each weekday.